What we're going to talk about today is how humans and robots can work side by side on the factory floor with Esben Østergaard, who is the CTO and co-founder of Universal Robots, as well as Matt Bush, who is the co-founder of Hirebotics. So Esben, we'll start with you. Robots, they're our friends, they're not our competitors. Why do we need to look at them as complementary to us?
Well, it's because what people can do and what robots can do is completely different things. So generally robots are very good at doing exactly the same thing every time over and over again. And people are actually good at being a little creative and figuring out what the consumers want and knowing about the processes and the materials. So the ideal world is a world where we stop using humans as robots in the factories and start using humans as humans, and then let the robots do the work that is good for robots.
So the robots can do the repetitive motions and the humans can do the creative thinking with their brains.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Very good. Matt, what do you think?
Well, it's like we tell customers is that, humans have these great things called hands and eyes. We're very dexterous. We have a great brain that is, real time. And so it's great for where we have tasks that need that dexterity, those eyes. And let's use humans there, and let's use the robots for the dull, the dirty, the dangerous, the monotonous jobs. The reason that people have gotten out of manufacturing over the last few years is, kids today, they don't want to go do a monotonous job. With technology like it is, they want to do something that's fun. So let's give them robots that they can work with and work beside and let them do what they do best and let the robots do what they do best.
So now, are we currently doing this? Are we utilizing robots to their fullest capacity and helping to keep these kids in the manufacturing industry? Or are we not doing such a good job? Esben?
Well, it's a beginning. So the launch of the cobots over the last 5-10 years has really started this change. So slowly we're beginning to make the factory floor a different kind of workplace where we are maybe no longer seeing it so much as just people working like machines, but actually start adding a different kind of people and also lifting the workers there to be more like robot programmers than working like robots, as I said before. And it's a slow process, so there's a lot of technology that needs to be developed over the next many years, but it's also a process that for sure has started now. So we are seeing this change today in many factories across the world, and it is going on.
Matt, what kind of change are you seeing, or do you want to see?
Yes, we're beginning to see it even at the education level, at the high school level, that kids today are beginning to entertain the thought of going to work in manufacturing as a career path and not going to college necessarily as a career path. And so we're seeing mechatronics programs come into the high schools where they're training them not how to go do the job, but how to work with technology that does the job. And that's going to be big over the next few years.
Okay, well, speaking of jobs, you very much believe in hiring a robot as a temp worker to do these jobs. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we think that, all manufacturers know how to do one thing well, and that's hire people. We do it on a daily basis. And so we've thought, our premise is, how do we make robots as easy as hiring a person? Because all manufacturers know how to do that. So what we've come up with is using collaborative robots, which are easier to program, able to go and do tasks that are being done by people today. We look for jobs where there are human-centric tasks. And with some of the stats that have come out in the last few years, there's a huge looming skills gap in America. By 2020, we're expecting 2 million unfilled jobs in manufacturing. Every day we talk to manufacturers, they just can't find the labor that they need. And so we're trying to fill that gap with robots.
Okay. Well, and then Esben, robots are not job killers, correct? They're actually job creators. What do you mean by this?
Well, we can look at a number of ways to answer that question. So we can look at the numbers. So the countries in the world that has the highest robot density per worker are also those countries with the lowest unemployment. So there's no clear evidence there. Then we can also see from our company that wherever we deploy robots, the companies end up actually hiring more people. So it's true that the jobs are changing, but they're not killed. So if we go, let's say, 300 years back in time and look at what work was at that time, if you took a guy from that period and brought him here in this studio or to this show, he would probably not be able to see a single guy actually working, according to his concept of work. So work is changing a lot over the years. And with these collaborative robots, we're also going to change what it is to be a factory worker. And that, so you can say work is changing, but definitely not destroyed or killed. There'll be a lot more use for people on the factory floors in the future.
So how do we change the perspective, and how do we get the message out that robots are not our enemy, they're our friend?
Well, we do shows like this, you can say, talk about it. It's an open discussion. Of course, generally people are afraid of change, and it is going to change. History has showed us that. But it's also becoming more and more clear that it is the way to go. So in reality, if you're afraid of robots, it's all about the salary levels, and then most of manufacturing will move to low-wage countries. But the tendency we in fact see today is a reshoring wave where jobs is moving back to the Western world because of robots and other machines becoming smart enough so you can actually interact with them on the shop floor.
Why do you think we are afraid of this change?
I think it's in human nature to be afraid of the change. And normally what we see is when first people get the experience with the robot, they start embracing them. I think Matt will be able to talk a little bit more about how people actually react to the robots. But initially there's fear, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, in our prior lives at SFEG, we actually brought in 14 universal robots to help bring production back to the US. And we met with the employees up front and told them, nobody's going to lose their job because of the robots. Actually, we're going to look to promote people because we need people that can work with the robots daily. And what we were, our goal was to employ more people, to be able to bring production back, compete with China, be able to produce closer to point of consumption our products. And what we found was, you put the first one in and there's a lot of skepticism, a lot of hand wringing around, am I really going to lose my job? And by the time we had a couple of them running, what you find is the employees are beginning to bring us the ideas of, I hate this job, can you figure out a way to get the robot to do it? This is something that we think the robot can do better. As we go into customers now, it's always funny when we take the first robot in, there's still all that skepticism. The employees kind of look at us a little weird. But by the time we have one running, suddenly every time we go to visit it, it's, well, when are you bringing another one? When can we get another one? And so as the employees begin to accept that the robots are there and that they're not really going to kill their job, they begin to look around and see that, man, the robots really are good at certain tasks. And one of the things that we've done, going back over several years, is we humanize the robots. Our customers name their robots. Our robots at SFEG were all named. And there was a funny story that we had a couple of robots named Thelma and Louise for the famous movie. And the reason the ladies named him that was they were like, oh, these robots are going to drive us over a cliff. They're going to be the end of us. And within a week or two, we'd give them the option, we'll run them for a week. At the end of the week, you get to vote. Do you want the robots or do you want a person? And almost to a person, they voted, we want robots.
Wow.
And matter of fact, when are you going to put the other robots in?
Wow.
And so suddenly it went from we're going to go over the cliff to we love Thelma and Louise. We got to keep them running.
Well, and it sounds like, so if they're embraced as a subset of employees, and they can become part of the team by giving them personalities, it also sounds like bringing the robots in allows the humans to use their brain to find even more creative ways for them to work. So when people are, how can we bring robots into our individual companies? Because if you just walk around the show floor, you see them. But how do we take it from seeing them to seeing what they can do for us?
So part of it is education and training. So we need more people able to actually use the robots and also understand the benefits of technology. That's why we do all the media activities and trade shows to try to get the message out. So one thing is we need to raise the education level. So we want to move people from being working like robots to being able to use robots as tools. So that's giving them some basic robot education or increasing, you could say, robot literacy in the society in general. Another way is to try to make robot systems easier to integrate and easier to redeploy. And this is what cobots is all about. This is why we make these collaborative robots. So those are the two, I think, important steps to get to the point where people actually work like people on the factories and robots work like robots.
And Matt, how do you think? What can we do to bring the robots to the factory floor?
Well, I think the closer we can get them to being literal employees, and that you're hiring a robot or you're getting a robot just like you get an employee, right? You have to train it, but you get a training that it can do its work. And the more we can de-risk the fact that, if I buy this big and capital intensive object, it better work or else, my job's on the line. I think the more we can de-risk that, the more people want to embrace robotics. Especially in manufacturing, because we all face this huge skills gap. I mean, it's no matter where you go in the country, it's hard to find employees to come work in manufacturing plants. And what I'm seeing, because I do a lot of work with the high school kids, as we bring robots into the classroom and they're getting to work with them on a daily basis, they're not afraid of them. They actually are embracing them and seeing that you can have fun with them and that it's cool to program them, right? It's like playing a video game. And so the kids are really getting involved with it. And I think as we bring those kids out of the high school and college levels and into manufacturing, we're going to see a faster adoption of not only robots, but just technology in general on the shop floor.
Well, if you want to bring technology in general to your shop floor, and especially robots, be sure to check out more information on that. And thank you so much, Esben Østergaard, the CTO and co-founder of Universal Robots, as well as Matt Bush, the co-founder of Hirebotics.